Hey everyone, thank you so much for joining me today for my review of the all-new 2022 Mazda MX-30. For those who don't know, the MX-30 is Mazda's first all-electric vehicle for the North American market. However, depending on where you're watching this video, the MX-30 could be marketed as a plug-in hybrid electric vehicle. The MX-30 is a first step in Mazda's goal of electrifying their vehicle lineup. Mazda hopes to have a fully scalable EV platform by 2025, and they'll be spending the next few years perfecting EV designs. What that means is that for the foreseeable future, Mazda will continue to support their gas-powered vehicles with more EVs as well as plug-in hybrids on their way. Now, if you're interested in electric vehicles, imagine you've probably heard about the MX-30's range, which tops out at around 100 miles or 161 kilometers. That's less than half the distance of a Model 3 Tesla. The MX-30's battery is on the small side at 35.5 kilowatt hours, and the front-wheel drive transmission puts out 143 horsepower. I reached out to Mazda to ask them why they use such a tiny battery, and they told me this. They wanted to create a car with a battery that provided a good balance between a low carbon footprint while still providing enough range for a daily commute. Mazda admitted the MX-30 likely may not appeal to a mass audience or provide a do-it-all solution. However, they focused on providing a vehicle that emphasized the driving experience and attention to detail. And that they did well. The MX-30 may not be that impressive on paper. For example, it only has 161 kilometer range, puts out 143 horsepower, and tips in at a portly 3,800 pounds. It also only supports 50 kilowatt level 3 charging, which is definitely on the slow side. Yet the MX-30 is still a great first step for Mazda's EV future. For every criticism I could level at it, I also found something great about it. It's super quiet on the road with a buttery smooth and refined drive profile. The motor provides loads of torque in the low end, and I never found the MX-30 to be underpowered at all. Last, I really like the interior with its use of premium materials like cork and its overall attention to detail. The Mazda MX-30 interior is probably one of Mazda's best. Everything is just super premium and robust to touch. Whenever you press on the panels, there isn't any creep and everything feels really tight and solid to the touch. My low-key favorite part of the MX-30 is its use of cork in the center console and also leaving extra room there, which I found super helpful. The MX-30 also gives you an actual 150 watt power outlet, which is a really nice feature on top of the standard USB ports. Another cool fact is that the MX-30 fabrics are sourced from recycled materials to reduce waste. Mazda also designs super ergonomic storage spots, which are always great and easy to access. The overall setup for the MX-30 is just excellent. Seating is comfortable and Mazda nailed the driver's setup and layout. Even the leather-wrapped steering wheel feels so upscale and it has that classic Mazda zest to it that connects both sportiness and luxury into one complete package. The MX-30 does things a little differently since it's an electric vehicle. Normally, Mazda uses traditional buttons and knobs for the climate control system, but the MX-30 uses an actual full touchscreen, which is really cool. It lets you control the climate control as well as the heated seats. Sound is provided by a 12-speaker Bose sound system, and like nearly every Mazda made of late, the infotainment system is controlled by the controls in the center console, which are easily accessible by hand. The infotainment system itself isn't touchscreen like other manufacturers. And, as I've said before many times, I prefer the system the best and always find myself reaching down to change my music or volume, even when I'm driving other cars. The infotainment system is an 8.inch HD display that lets you access your media, navigation, and vehicle settings. However, since this is an electric vehicle, you have access to battery information, and you can even program the car to wake up at a certain time so that your car is warm and ready to go in the mornings. The MX-30 also has a full 360 camera with proximity sensors around the car. What that means is that the MX-30 will audibly warn you when you pull too close to walls or objects. The 360 camera is super helpful when pulling in or out of tight spots. Now, there are a few downsides with the MX-30 I have to point out. The MX-30 uses clamshell doors, which are informally known as suicide doors. Mazda uses the far more family-friendly term freestyle doors. The issues with these doors are that shoulder checks are tough because the pillars block sightlines when changing lanes. More importantly, the rear seats aren't exactly the roomiest, and if you're on the taller side, it's not going to be fun back there. However, Mazda does provide a button that allows you to control the seat in front of you in case you want some more room or to help you exit the vehicle. Also, the trunk isn't massive as Mazda placed a charging control unit below it. If you're curious, the batteries lie right under the MX-30's cabin, and they add around 640 pounds of weight to the total vehicle. The reason why I can forgive some of the MX-30's weaknesses comes down to just how excellent the MX-30 handles. The MX-30 weighs in at 3,800 pounds, which is nearly 1,000 pounds heavier than a Honda Civic sedan. It's also not a particularly large vehicle. However, the MX-30 provides one of the smoothest, quietest, and most refined rides I've ever experienced. Thanks to the electric motor, even when at highway speeds, the only thing you really hear is the sound coming from the tires. I also just love the sound of electric motors kicking in when you press on the gas. Apparently, Mazda's engineers actually spent time creating the whirring sound of the electric motors so that drivers could instinctively know how much power was going into the wheels. The steering profile is also excellent. The MX-30 uses McPherson strut front and torsion beam rear suspension, but the MX-30 still does a remarkable job of hugging the road. Steering is responsive and sharp with road feel, and the MX-30 is just a total treat to drive. Mazda's employed the SkyActiv G vectoring control system, and I really felt it work tightening the MX-30 around corners and smoothing out driver inputs. When you talk about power, 143 horsepower may not sound like a lot, but you have to remember that electric motors are inherently torqueier and provide instant power response. The MX-30 will do 0 to 60 in around 9 seconds, which sounds like a snail's pace, but the first half of the power band is excellent. Up to 60 km an hour, the MX-30 really pulls and never felt like I needed more power. Even at highway speed, I was passing cars easily in the left lane, so unless you plan a race on the track, I wouldn't worry about it. The MX-30 only fades at the top end of the power band, but if you spend most of your time driving in an urban area, you generally work at slower speeds anyway. The MX-30 is currently only available in front-wheel drive, and it's unclear if all-wheel drive will be introduced in the future. When it comes to charging the MX-30, Mazda claims that a full charge should take around 5 to 6 hours with a level 2 charger. Fast charging from 20 to 80% with a level 3 charger should take around 40 minutes. I will admit, the MX-30's battery range isn't great and you will have to plan out trips if you're going out further than 50 kilometers one way. I personally think that the talk about range anxiety is totally overblown. If you use your brain and employ some simple arithmetic before you trip, you're not going to run out of electricity and perish on the side of the road. In conclusion, the MX-30 definitely made a notable impression on me. The MX-30 is kind of like a McDonald's hamburger. It's quite easy to criticize McDonald's food. It's not exactly haute cuisine, but there's still something to like about it even with all of its issues. Sure, it's underpowered on paper and the range is definitely on the weaker end of the scale. Yet I can forgive these shortcomings due to how excellently it handled and just the attention to detail Mazda made when designing and implementing the interior. I will admit, the MX-30 is definitely a car for commuting in a large city. If you live in a rural area, I cannot recommend the MX-30 as the range is just too low to reliably go back and forth on one charge. Now, if you're looking to buy the MX-30, it's currently only for sale in certain locations. In Canada, only dealerships in Quebec and BC will receive them for the time being. Also, in certain locations, governments will provide tax or credit incentives for purchasing electric vehicles such as the MX-30. In BC, at the time of publishing this video, buyers will get up to $3,000 from the government if they were to buy an MX-30. So to wrap up, I love the MX-30 even despite all of its shortcomings. I think it's a great first step for Mazda, and I cannot wait to see where Mazda takes their EVs in the years to come.